Yeah. All right.
The list is so long.
So long.
Oh God.
Well, I just want to say, like, on top of the topic of not liking the word biohacking, maybe a newer term that some people like is ancestral hacking. Like, I know hacking isn't the best word, but um biohacking, it doesn't mean that it's all this like tech and gadgets and implanting things and gene editing, right? Like ancestral hacking is biohacking that our ancestors did naturally, right? Things like getting out in the sunshine, going for walks, grounding. So I think combining those, maybe that gives it a more positive spin, possibly. But
Yeah. Or like the human optimization. But I think we think of biohacking as just sort of like a disruption and like less than ideal patterns. Like our environment is very sneaky, like our toxic burden and our stress loads have just creeped up over the years, so much so we don't even realize what's happening. So yeah, the argument is, oh, our ancestors didn't do biohacks. Like, no, of course he didn't, but we have to work harder to cut through all this crap and to like level out our nervous system. So
that's right. Our ancestors also lived in nature,
right. They didn't have to schedule their nature time.
No, they definitely didn't. So it was a different world then, and different amounts of stress. And, look, there's obviously they had to worry about like, let's make sure our water's clean so we don't, there are pros and cons to living in a technological world, but it's a different world, make no mistake about it. But welcome to Far Out with Faust. I'm Faust Chicho, and today I'm joined by the Biohacker Babes. Let me tell you about these incredible sisters. They come from a health-driven family that prioritized the fundamentals of wellness and self-care. And their dad, Gene Sambataro, a fellow Italian-American, is one of the original biohackers, and he's a pioneer in the field of holistic dentistry. A little bit about Renee. Renee's a certified nutritional consultant and a holistic lifestyle coach. She's got a master's degree in nutrition. And Lauren is a Broadway performer, and she's a corrective exercise specialist and functional health coach. Both have had to overcome many challenges and physical illnesses in order to bring you their experience. And that's what brought them together and inspired them to create the Biohacker Babe podcast. And if you guys haven't heard of this podcast, and health and wellness is your thing, you're going to want to check it out. They have an incredible 120 plus episode library, which I've been delving into to prepare for this interview. And it's filled with incredible insights, tips. I mean, right down the line, everything from wellness to nutrition. I'm going to try to get into as much of it as I can for you. And, it's an honor to have you guys on. Thank you so much for beaming in. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
That was quite the intro.
Sound like twins.
Thank you. I try not to get too excited about it. I'm like out of breath by the end of it, but
I do the same. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, I really enjoy your podcast. I've been learning so much, and I'm like, oh, I gotta get some of that, or I'm going to put that into my life. So I just want to thank you for all the work that you've been doing thus far. And it's so great that you guys, decided to come together and do this. It's so cool.
Thank you. Well, right back at you. You have a great show. You're a great podcast host, and we're excited to be here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So Renee, I wanted to start with you because, you've both overcome a lot of different challenges to come into a space where you can help others with their healing journey. And I always find that there's a very common thread among people in health and wellness, and it's usually a healing journey. And I know that you dealt with everything from, chronic injuries, fatigue, adrenal dysfunction, and some mercury toxicity, along with the Epstein-Barr virus. And I was like, wow, that's a laundry list to overcome. Can you share a little bit about your journey overcoming that and kind of like, what you learned about yourself?
Sure. Absolutely. It was quite a journey to get to where I am today at 35 years old. So I I was always the type A kind of go person, all through high school, all through college. I ended up getting the Epstein-Barr virus in my senior year in college. Graduated, I just completely crashed.
Can you tell
burned.
everyone about what that is? Because I'm sure a lot of people are like, wait, which one is that?
Yeah, also known as mono.
Oh,
So,
okay.
people say mono, the kissing disease. Yeah. So the joke was, well, who gave it to me? I don't know. But I ended up with it, and I ended up I kind of pushed through as long as I could on, 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night. I was not a biohacker at the time. Graduated, I ended up sleeping like 12 plus hours a night, and just nothing would fix my fatigue. And I went to a lot of traditional medicine doctors, and they said, you're just stressed, just sleep more. I'm like, I can't sleep more. I will literally not be functioning as a human being in society if I just sleep more. There's only 24 hours in the day. So fortunately, our parents being more into holistic health at the time, and our dad being a biological dentist, I went to them and I'm like, there's got to be more answers. What else should I be looking at? And they really led me down a path of looking at chiropractic, acupuncturists, massage therapist, herbalists, naturopaths. I was like all over the place, just kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, running lab tests, trying to figure out why I was so darn tired. And it was basically chronic fatigue syndrome, right? So it's this fatigue that's not relieved by sleep and is lasting more than 6 months. And it ended up being, so the Epstein-Barr virus was causing all this havoc in my immune system. I had mercury toxicity, and even though I never had silver dental fillings, I still had mercury toxicity, probably from, well, I had vaccines as a kid, so I was probably exposed there. I ate a lot of tuna fish as a kid. I loved that stuff. And then our parents had.
Did you like tuna?
I love tuna.
Yeah.
And then even our parents had silver fillings at one point, so it could have been passed that way. But
I didn't even know you could get it that way. That's incredible.
Yeah. If your parents had it, you can still pass it through that way. So mercury toxicity was a big issue. Had to overcome that with some chelation and detoxification. Lots of rest, learning how to meditate, learning how to control my stress, learning how to be type A in today's world without burning the candle at both ends. And that kind of taught me how to be a biohacker. I really was like, okay, so we need to take responsibility for our own health, because there's not one practitioner that's going to say, yep, I got you. That's not going to happen. You need to take responsibility and really tune into not only looking at the different pieces of data, right? We love the Oura Ring, the BioStrap, all these things. Looking at the data. Yeah. Yes. We're twins today. And then looking at the different labs. I think lab testing can be really helpful, but then also combining it with your intuition. We love this topic of intuition, because you are going to know your body better than anyone else will ever know it. There's little nuances in your day where you're like, oh yeah, when I eat eggs, I think I have brain fog, right? There's little things that you would pick up on that a practitioner wouldn't. And that's really how I became a biohacker. And I just obviously love the topic of biohacking. We both know. We all do.
That's awesome. And you're touching on a lot of things that I'm going to get further into, but it's one of the things I talk about a lot on my podcast is intuition and how vital it is. I mean, I think it's always been part of the human experience, but now more than ever, when there's so much information coming from so many people, when I see people who are so intelligent and they're so lost, and that's because they've really unplugged from their intuition, and they cannot tell, there's so many voices speaking so many truths, and they don't know what their own is. And I'm just like, man, you need to get quiet and replug into your intuition, man, or you're going to continue to not know, which direction you're going and which direction you should be going. But anyway,
I love that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
And sorry, my dog was just, I don't know if you guys caught that or heard that.
I saw some feet run by.
Lauren, I had no idea you were a Broadway performer as well. You were in Wicked. Were you a dancer?
Yes, and singer.
Incredible. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I come from the stage, and I have an MFA in acting, and and
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Went to the it was the Actor Studio Drama School when I got in, and I graduated from the New School for Drama because James Lipton and the school had a falling out. And anyway, my master's, it doesn't say the same thing as what my application. It's strange. Anyway.
Yeah, that happens.
You know what you did.
Yeah, exactly. We were great. We were a great class, but you've
That's
also,
awesome.
thank you. It's kind of humorous, people are like, wait, what happened? I was like, I thought that I got the wrong letter in the mail. I was like, this has to be a mistake. I didn't even audition for the school.
Oh my gosh.
Weird.
That's cool though.
Yeah, it's a funny story. So Lauren, you also struggled with some physical challenges. And it's fascinating to me that you found Paul Chek, who is a very enlightened dude. A lot of people probably, I don't know, if a lot. I mean, people who are listening to you guys and me probably have heard of Paul Chek, but I think for the most part, he's not very mainstream. But what an incredible enlightened human being. I mean, if you want to see somebody who's got it figured out, check out his YouTube videos and listen to him talk. And so, what did Paul Chek like? How did he affect you on your journey? What were you struggling with? And tell me how everything changed with that.
Well, I first discovered Paul Chek when I was working at New York Sports Club. I, out of college, wanted a free gym membership. So I walked in, I was like, I'll get a job at the desk and I can work out for free. And I guess I looked the part, and they're at a deficiency, and someone walked up to me and asked if I wanted to be a trainer. I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Trained, did my education. I was like, I really like this. And somehow was exposed to Paul Chek, was supposed to happen. Such a genius. And then my first educational course with Paul Chek, we actually did as a family.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So his
Mom and dad
holistic
too.
lifestyle coaching. This is a trend. Our family does things. It's like, if one person says they want to do it, Renee will be like, I want to do it too. Mom's like, well, I want to do it. Dad's like, well, we gotta all do it.
That's awesome.
And so we all got our black belts together. We used to all do country.
Wait, where'd you get your black belts in?
Taijutsu.
Wow.
Yeah, we were
awesome.
younger, so our requirement was to break a single board, which is not normally, I think, what it takes to get your black belt. But we learned a lot of discipline. It was an amazing family activity. Long story short, we do things as a family. And so we all did Paul's holistic lifestyle coaching level 1 together in DC. And so that was our first real foray into his teachings, which are truly holistic. I feel like the word holistic has been so bastardized. Everyone's like, oh, body and mind connected. And if you were not following Paul Chek, if you're not familiar with his teachings, I'm like, maybe you don't really know what this is. Like, the man has just such a broad spectrum idea of how the body works. It's a system of systems. And we so often isolate and really kind of get nitty gritty with little things like minutia. And he's the master at zooming out and looking at the whole picture.
Yeah.
So I later went on to do all of his exercise, not all of them, still working my way through his exercise programs, which I was initially turned on to working at the gym.
Right.
And it's just it's endless. His knowledge is just so vast. The man has done his work. He's read thousands of books. His home library is just the most impressive. So of course, your audience knows him. Our audience knows him, but I wish the world knew him.
Yeah.
Why he's not mainstream, not really certain, but he certainly is someone that we can all benefit from learning from.
Absolutely. He's, and I mean, if you just take a peek at his YouTube channel, I mean, and this is a guy who's, he's probably, how old would you say Paul is these days? 60? He's got to be
60. He turned 60 this year.
He's 60. I mean, he's probably in better shape than I am. I mean, he definitely has, a better ab game than me. I mean, this dude he looks incredible. So he's doing something right, because he's not aging. So
he looks the
he's
same.
Doing lots of things right.
He is.
He's a normal guy. I've only met him in person once, but just through the Chek faculty that I've worked with, they love to say how normal he is. He watches Netflix and eats popcorn on a Saturday night with his family.
That's cool.
He's also out in nature all the time and stacking rocks. So he lives a normal life. He's not that biohacker that is living in the darkness and in seclusion. He's integrated.
That's
It's
his
really
thing.
cool.
I mean, he looks at things and he sees the integration of things, and he sees the interconnectedness of everything. And that's, I think, one of the things he speaks so well on, whether he's talking about God or extra, how to incorporate and how we fit in as a whole, and he's really incredibly, well read and gifted at speaking on all of that. So you guys got to check him out if you haven't heard him yet. Paul Chek, Chek.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna have him on one day.
Oh
one,
yeah.
one day when the time is right.
Dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Dreams. So Renee and Lauren and we were at the biohacking conference, and we have a common friend in Dr. Patrick Porter, who is he owns and runs and is the founder of BrainTap, which is, if you guys go back in my library, you'll see one of my first episodes was with Dr. Porter, and we talk about like brainwave function and meditation and all these incredible things. And he's just how much fun is Dr. Porter? He's and he's the one who introduced us, by the way. So thanks, Doc. You're the best, man. Yeah, very cool.
We're big fans of Dr. Porter and the Brain Tap.
I know you are. I hear you guys talk about him a lot. I love that.
Yeah, that's the device that gets traveled. Like, where am I going? It's coming with me.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, last week I had to check my bag just so I could bring my Brain Tap. That was like what put me over. I was like, well, I'm checking a bag now.
You're like, I'll deal with baggage claim if I can.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it.
It's really worth it. I use it all the time. I mean, and there really is something for every occasion in it. Whether, if you have trouble sleeping, if you just want to kind of reboot, we can get into that too, but let's keep going while we get on a roll here. You guys, I'm sure that you have a lot of podcasts which talk, just about quote biohacks, and people are like, I don't like that word. I don't like, I'm like, why?
Paul Chek doesn't like that word.
He doesn't, right?
No.
Yeah.
No. So a lot of people have a problem with that word. And it's funny that it triggers people. They're like, like it's just it's kind of a combination word. We're not reinventing the wheel. It's just
no, and it's just a word.
It is. It's
right.
it's and there's neurohacks, there's biohacks, there's nutrition. Now it's so widely thrown around and used. But you guys have some incredible episodes where you kind of just go over biohacks, and so I don't want to bore you guys as my esteemed guests today, but I do want to share some of what your absolute favorites are, and maybe even we start with just a couple of your favorites that you want to share, but also what you guys are doing right now, like what you're most excited about, what kind of the newest thing that you've implemented in your life is that you'd like to share.
Yeah. All right.
The list is so long.
So long.
Oh God.
Well, I just want to say, like, on top of the topic of not liking the word biohacking, maybe a newer term that some people like is ancestral hacking. Like, I know hacking isn't the best word, but biohacking, it doesn't mean that it's all this like tech and gadgets and implanting things and gene editing, right? Like, ancestral hacking is biohacking that our ancestors did naturally, right? Things like getting out in the sunshine, going for walks, grounding. So I think combining those, maybe that gives it a more positive spin, possibly. But
yeah, or like the human optimization. But I think we think of biohacking as just sort of like a disruption and like less than ideal patterns. Like, our environment is very sneaky, like our toxic burden and our stress loads have just creeped up over the years, so much so we don't even realize what's happening. So yeah, the argument is, oh, our ancestors didn't do biohacks. Like, no, of course he didn't, but we have to work harder to cut through all this crap and to like level out our nervous system. So
that's right. Our ancestors also lived in nature,
right. They didn't have to schedule their nature time.
No, they definitely didn't. So it was a different world then, and different amounts of stress. And, look, there's obviously they had to worry about like, let's make sure our water's clean so we don't, there are pros and cons to living in a technological world, but it's a different world, make no mistake about it. But but I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
whoever was going, go ahead.
Renee, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh no, it's all part of the conversation. I would say if I could pick like my top 3 biohacks, potentially for everyone, but definitely for me, I would say number 1 is the brain tap. I'm
Nice.
circling back to that thing. I've been using it for 3 years, almost every single day, and it's been such a game changer for me. Morning sunshine. I'm really fortunate to live in Las Vegas where it's sunny 350 days out of the year. I have a rooftop. I can just roll out of bed, go up there. I get my morning sunshine for at least 20 minutes in the morning. Also a game changer. Like for years, especially when I lived in the Northeast where it's very dark for a lot of the year.
Very dark
I would just,
right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would drive to work in the dark and then I'd be inside a building all day, no natural sunlight. And I didn't know that was part of the reason why I was also so tired. I had no circadian rhythm stability there. And then my final one I would say is infrared sauna. I love to sweat. This is where Lauren and I have our little battle, cold and hot. I love that feeling in the sauna when you just start dripping sweat. You like can feel the toxins coming out. Lauren's like, ew. I mean, I have to jump in the shower immediately after because it's gross. But that was also
Just sweat,
really, it's just sweat. It was really helpful for me when I was healing too, because I think I was so toxic, not just the mercury and the virus, but I'm sure I had all these other things going on, and just being able to sweat it out, it feels so good. So
very cool. Very cool.
Those are my top 3.
My wife's going to love your third. She has the, what's it called? It's a
Blanket.
She has the blanket, but it's, it's that name. It's like naturally high, or I don't know.
Oh, higher dose.
Maybe. Yeah. And
it's like naturally high with higher dose. It stands for something. Yeah.
She loves that thing. She uses it all the time. She's like, you want to use it? I'm like, do I want to sit in a blanket? like, do I want to cook myself in a blanket? I don't know. I was like, I think I'm just going to take a bath.
Yeah, I'm with you.
A nice big sauna box is nicer. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we're definitely thinking about that when we move into an actual house one day. Yeah. But okay.
Yeah. It's good for New Yorkers temporarily.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And you can travel with it.
Yeah.
Definitely a great option.
Okay. Who's up?
I guess Lauren? My favorite hacks.
Yeah, sure.
I won't say brain tap, though I love it, but just to provide some contrast. What I have to put at the top of the list, like doing nothing, like the nature hacks, just stepping away from all of our devices, taking some quiet time, being outside in the sun, like just no more inputs, just stop.
Right.
Is number 1. Right. Because the benefits are endless. We get the circadian rhythm entrainment. We get the vitamin D. We get some grounding. We get, a halt in our EMF and radiation exposure, nervous system rebalancing. Like sometimes just doing nothing is the best thing that we can do. And I think as biohackers, we're always like, which device now?
Yeah.
Like how many devices can I use in a day? It's like,
totally.
That's all great. But, doing nothing is really powerful. My other 2 big ones, which are devices, the Newbie, which is a therapeutic device. It's DC current, so similar to stim. Are you familiar with the Newbie?
No. In fact, I thought you were referring to like one of your new favorites. You were just calling it a newbie.
My Newbie.
I was like, tell me about this Newbie. I want to hear.
At one point it was, yeah.
No, the Newbie, it's an acronym. Let's see if I can remember this. Neurobiological electric stimulation, something like that. It's DC current, so it's pads and wires, so similar to like a stim device that you've seen in physical therapy, or there's like a lot of like a TENS unit. The difference here is most of those use AC, alternating current. This uses DC current, so there's always 2 pads. You get a grounder and then the other one completes the circuit. But DC current works with the brain to essentially like reprogram movement patterns. So you can use it either for therapeutic benefits, or you can use it for strength training, hypertrophy. It depends on the frequency that you're using. I love it for the rehabilitative purposes. I had injured my ankle actually from using a biohacking device, which I won't mention, but I think wasn't enough research and they didn't know the power of the device. And I woke up with excruciating ankle pain, and I tried everything.
Wow.
Peptides, acupuncture, red light, PT, all of it. Nothing helped. I found someone that did the newbie, and actually in Vegas. I was visiting Renee, and instantly
Wow.
pain-free.
Wow.
So I was like, I need to get this. Got certified in the device. NewFit is the company. They're based out of Austin. And Garrett, the founder, has done a lot of work with professional sports teams. A lot of them will not out themselves because they don't want their competitors all getting on it. Like it's some really,
Yeah.
really
Oh
awesome
yeah. Yeah. Of
benefits.
course. Yeah.
They have like a few amazing case stories. Like this woman that was paraplegic, didn't walk for 25 years, is now walking because of the newbie.
Wow.
And sorry,
Wow.
it's such a long story, but this machine is just so amazing. I've had so many successes with it, not just with my ankle, but
Your
even
clients,
in
right?
just the last couple of days, I had been having this back pain, which is really abnormal for me. I've never really had back pain in my life. And because I'm a trainer and with my experience with the body, it's like, I can put this together. I can figure out the puzzle pieces. And I
Right.
was like, this something is different about this. And it was like 2 weeks. I couldn't figure it out. And I was laying in bed 2 nights ago. I was like firing up all my muscles. I was like, my left glute isn't firing. It's like, it's not
Oh.
working. I was like, oh my God, my butt cheek's not firing. That's why my back is hurting. So I got up the next morning and I did 10 minutes on the newbie, gone. Back pain, gone.
So does it come with the things and you have to like stick them to yourself? Like, is that?
Yeah, it's sticky pads. There's
The
a whole
sticky
like
pads, okay.
diagnostic process,
Yeah.
but I had kind of put the pieces together, like this is affecting this, and it, within 10 minutes. So that is like my holy grail. Like, I'm not sure that I could live without that machine.
Wow. That answers my other question about like, what are you most excited about? So that's very cool. We're going to check that out. And we'll put a link into, to it in the video description for everyone listening, or for everyone who's going to check it out on YouTube. We'll make sure we include that for you guys for your convenience, but then I'm going to check it out too, because it sounds amazing. That's very cool.
It is. I mean, that's the brilliance of these biohacking devices. You could argue that like our ancestors didn't use them, that we can do it without them. But in cases like this, where there has been like a shutdown of movement patterns, there's faulty movement patterns because of excess inflammation, your brain is in like fight or flight mode. It's really hard to get unstuck from that pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And so this technology that's coming out is, I'm like,
yeah,
we need it.
No, there's no reason why we live in a time where things are, especially with how effective you can shorten the time. Everything has been monetized, and that's another conversation. But my point is, why wouldn't, if I tell people all the time, like, look, I can walk from here, to Pennsylvania, and I could take the same route that I've always taken. But if someone comes up to me and says, dude, if you just take this route, you're going to get there a lot quicker. Is it a shortcut, or is it the right way? Is it simply the best way to go? You know what I mean?
More
like
efficient.
there's no people, we have shortcuts get a bad name because of don't cut corners. And yeah, of course that applies to a great many things, but a lot of biohacks that are effective they're not really shortcuts. They're just a much more effective way to do something that we've always been trying to do. So I just thought I'd put that out
we
there.
could lean on them
efficiency.
as crutches. I mean, we could lean on supplements to, lower our blood sugar, or like one of our favorite devices is the human charger. I don't know if you're familiar with the lights that shine into your ears. And then
I heard about it. Yeah.
You can use that to reset your circadian rhythm, which is awesome. But if you have sunshine outside, shouldn't you go outside?
Yeah.
We use this if it's a rainy day, or if you're traveling and you're crossing time zones. So it becomes a crutch if you're not choosing nature.
Yeah.
But it's there for you when you need it.
Yeah. And nature is usually, it's tough to compete with nature, no matter what, there's just something exponentially more powerful about getting it from the source, right? Like over and over.
Wins.
That's right. Always, from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we have evidence of
undefeated
that.
nature. Absolutely. It's The
Nature
evidence is
one, us zero.
that's right. That's right. It may, and the score may be much greater, but it was such a complete annihilation.
Infinity.
We don't remember. So,
Right.
but, and
Very
so
true.
Lauren, you work with a lot of your clients who are dealing with chronic pain. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is
I
that,
like to think of myself as a fixer.
yeah.
I've never, not never, but I'm not super interested in, just killing people to burn calories and work really
Right.
hard. I like to bring people back into balance. And I really appreciate kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, the same as Renee and I do with our health coaching. It's like, can we take the 30,000 foot view and see something that you're not seeing? Anyone can go online and get a workout
Right.
regimen. So I like being the detective, I guess
Yeah.
we'll say. Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah. I mean, I definitely if I was looking, I'd be like, wow, a whole lot to offer, and looking at what, I could gain from a session with you, as opposed to like finding a trainer who's going to push me to try to do exercises or just that, that's great for some people, but, for other people who are looking, who have more specific set of challenges, I think that they would be wise to look to someone like you.
Which is what happens, as we get older, like the clientele changes. People in their 20s are hiring you to kill them and make them work harder.
Yeah.
And 30s, they're like, oh, having some pain. 40s are like, nothing's working.
I need help.
And that's like the beauty of Paul Chek. It's like, your back's hurting. Well, what are you eating? Like, we're not going to, we could do glute exercises to relieve your back pain and look at your pelvic floor, but like, what are you eating? Do you have mercury toxicity? Like, what else is going on?
It's such a huge thing that people, we have such a backwards system, and we teach it, you really you have to go out of the way to learn what's actually true about nutrition in this society we live in, which is
so true.
Slightly insane, but it's not like you're just going to eventually learn it. You have to literally go out of your way to find out, wait a minute, so calories aren't all the same. Simple things that everyone should know. These are not common knowledge. I was with my parents for Thanksgiving, and my mother said something about calories. And I was like, yeah, but Ma, it's not just calories. You know what I mean? Like, calories they're all of different value, and you need, they're a part of everything that you're going to eat in some way. You're not just calorie counting. That's like so 19, I don't even know. That's last century.
Yeah. Well, sure. I have a family member who was just diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And my first thing was, she's waiting to get more testing and get treatment plans. And I said, number one, you got to cut out the sugar. I said, at least start with that. And she's like, how come my doctor didn't tell me to cut out the sugar? Like, I can't answer that question. Just do it, please.
Yeah. The same, I tell people all the time. I had a friend who had a pretty big wake up call when his dad, who has diabetes, had a stroke, was in the hospital. And the doctor, they basically, like, they brought him a Coca-Cola. Like, of course, no thought went into it at all. And my friend saw it, and he was like, excuse me, like, are you trying to kill my father? He has diabetes. He just had a stroke, and you're cheersing, you're putting a Coca-Cola on his, like, well, what the fuck are you thinking? He was pissed, but it was a wake up call to him, because he realized that they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground when it comes to nutrition, or anything along those lines. And I'm like, that's a great wake up call. I'm sorry that they almost cost your dad's health, but
hospital nutrition is just the worst. Yeah. The same family member, she's in the hospital right now, and they gave her a pack of saltine crackers for dinner because they didn't want her eating much. It's fast. I tell better off.
Yeah, I'm better off like with nothing than dealing with whatever the hospital gives you. I have my twin, him and I it was vastly different before. A year ago, he ended up in the hospital with acute diverticulitis and a perforated colon with a severe infection. Okay. And I'm like, often when I would watch him and his, inseparable Yeti of soda that he walks around with all day, every day, I would think to myself, it's a miracle to me that he doesn't have a hole in his stomach yet. You know what I mean? Like, how do you drink so much fucking soda? And, he just kind of ate and drank whatever he wanted. I mean, and like his coffee, it looked like, I want to say like a 15-year-old, had made the coffee. Like the sugar would be everywhere. There'd be, it'd be like, it was basically, I'm like, you want some coffee with that sugar and milk, dude? Like,
Gross.
Be stirring it up. I'm like, Jesus, dude, like, he's like, it's almost sweet enough. I'm like, we're going to be 40 soon, bro. but very different lifestyles. He still smokes cigarettes. I stopped. And when I survived college, I stopped smoking cigarettes. I was like, I'm alive. I'm going to start doing push-ups.
Yeah.
He didn't exactly go that route, but
where did the paths divert for you to?
Oh my God. So the paths definitely diverted. I think, they started to divert in college, but the lifestyle changes were really post-college. He spent an extra year in college because he realized that the major that he actually liked, which was a religious studies major, he couldn't really see past the fact that he realized he was told that he would really only be able to teach with that. And even though that was his passion and what he loved learning about, like Buddhism, all the different religious philosophies. And he couldn't imagine himself as a teacher. And so he ended up he dropped that, went to law. He ended up going to law school, which is like, I don't know if you know anyone who went to law school or not. I can't tell if there's any positive that could come from it. I don't know many people who
money that you have no time to spend.
I'm like, dude, he came home. He wasn't that healthy when he went to law school, but one time he came home and he yelled at me a few times. He was like, stop fucking looking at me. I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. You just, you look like death, we're Italian. So, we just, we're very honest, but you're not allowed to look at someone too long in my family because usually that means something's wrong with them, so.
Trigger.
Yeah, exactly. But wow. I was like, dude, how the fuck? He's had to make a lot of lifestyle changes, but I'm like, eventually it catches up with you. And so he was at the hospital recovering from this. Thank God he recovered. He didn't have to get the colostomy bag, and he was able to kind of walk away pretty, all things considered, how bad it could have been. He was lucky. And I was like, dude, don't use this as like, you got out of jail free, but if you don't change, you're going to end up back in the hospital. You have to make changes to your diet. You cannot continue to sip Mountain Dew and Sprite like there's, like you're a 15-year-old kid. You got to start eating something that has some nutritional value, like you're going to end up back there. But at the hospital, he was like, oh, they said I could drink soda. I'm like, dude.
Oh gosh.
I'm like, but they don't know, they're not the authority. I'm telling you you don't want to start drinking soda, especially while you're recovering from this. But you wouldn't know it.
A lack of education.
Totally. People don't know.
Really sad. Oh man. Well, you guys are like a really interesting epigenetic Venn diagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, and it's only going to get more interesting, I think, as time goes on, but it's fascinating because we were together over Thanksgiving, and this is like a brief window when we kind of have the same hair length, the same facial hair going on. And we kind of look, again, very much like identical twins, which was strange because we would go out and people were like, oh my God, you guys are twins. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We look alike a lot right now. Yeah.
Oh.
So it was funny. It was funny.
It was fun.
But
people think that we're twins sometimes.
Right.
I don't know. I don't see it, but we're not.
We sound alike.
A little bit, yeah.
More and more. Yeah.
What is your do you both have a practice, a daily spiritual practice? I mean, I know even just sitting in the sun can sometimes be so meditative and beneficial, but if you guys wouldn't mind sharing, what's your daily practice and how did you come into it?
Well, yeah, I think this is actually an interesting time for this question. I mean, my background, I mean, spiritually, we grew up Catholic. You know, it was in the Catholic Church for 25 years, and that was my idea of a spiritual practice. And then I became very disconnected with it. And so for many years, I wasn't really practicing anything. I was just kind of believing in, you know, the law of attraction, some kind of higher power. You know, I felt this connection to other people on the earth, and I didn't really know what was going on. And I would meditate, and that was all I was really doing for a while. But so today I actually have a new practice. Lauren and I are finishing up a 12-week spiritual practice. It's been guided by these two amazing women, Laura and Kathy, from this program called Be Loved Now. And for 12 weeks, we have had to do a reading, a meditation, and journaling every day.
Wow.
12 weeks.
Wow.
We only have a couple more days. And I have to say, I'm shocked that, I mean, we did it every single day. I mean, that takes some commitment, and it's been amazing.
That does, but it pays
Might have
off.
missed a day or two.
You're like, wow. Well, but still the consistency, even if you missed a day or two, I found that, you know, at least my experience with consistency is, you know, you really start to reflect and see, like, and I'm kind of always in awe. The more consistent I am with something like that, the more I'm like, wow, look at what it's done for me. You know, has that been your experience as well with this?
Yeah, I think for me, the consistency has definitely been big. And it's like, even on a crazy day where I can't really commit all the time I want to, I'm like, hey, you're going to meditate for 10 minutes and you're going to write one sentence in your journal. Okay. Like that's something.
Right.
Versus maybe another day I get to meditate for 30 minutes and journal for 20 minutes, you know, but just something every day has been really big. And through the program, it's all about these different spiritual principles. So practicing gratitude, joy, forgiveness, like really great things that have just intertwined into my daily life. And it's been really incredible.
And how is, Lauren, how has your experience been with it?
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
I used to be such a huge advocate for daily consistent meditation and journaling. And suddenly I was like, oh, wow. Not when I started this program, I was like, oh, wow, really got away from that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had a spiritual practice, which definitely evolves. And I think my foray into spirituality was actually with psychotherapy. I started doing therapy because of a relationship, and it became like a weekly thing. And that was sort of my first introduction into it's about you.
We have
not
that in
about
common.
everybody else. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Not surprising. Yeah. We have that in common.
I love that. It's just like, it's enlightening to have, I think having a therapist is sort of like, it's a biohack in a way. It's like the lab version of like a metabolic marker, right? Like you have someone reflecting back to you. You have someone that has a 30,000 foot view and sees things that you can't see because you're too up close with yourself. And so
and you don't know what you don't know, you know, I mean,
you don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
You were raised in a microcosm of what is, and so you know what you were taught. And sometimes what you're taught isn't exactly accurate, you know.
Totally. So it's like a breaking down of all of these thoughts and constructs and really having to spend time with yourself and break those things down. So that began my spiritual practice. And then, you know, obviously things are always coming in out of my life in this 12-week program, which it is amazing. Like you could look at the journaling, the daily journaling homework and be like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. But if you can reframe that and go like, I get to do this. And then like, you see what gets put on the paper. And like at the beginning of the 12 weeks, it was like, oh man, I don't know the answer to these questions. I don't know. And now like, I know the answers. It comes out like it really does get easier and it gets more rewarding. And like, I'm not sure that I will continue to meditate and journal, but now I have that resource that I can come back to at any time. And it's been super, super revealing. And then
cool.
On top of that, another big part of my spiritual journey has been experimenting with psychedelics.
Nice.
And
I said that a little too enthusiastic, totally outed myself.
I was wondering if you were going to go that way. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's
Tell me
just
about
a
it.
powerful resource that
It is.
our ancestors certainly had access to. I mean, it's a biohack. So being able to, dissolve the ego and step outside of ourselves and reconnect to love and compassion is just like an amazing tool, especially in this day and age when we are in fight or flight and in fear and anxiety, and we're so out of touch with our intuition. Like it is a drop. You drop in so fast. And I just think that's a really powerful medicine.
It's like even I'm a big advocate of particularly, of psilocybin and microdosing. And, I found that it complements my spiritual practice in incredible ways, and I tell people all the time, like, it's not, you're just kind of, you're forging the neurons that you need to be connected in your mind. So, especially if you're just starting, sometimes I think it can be it's not a crutch so much as it is, you're building you need to put the scaffolding up and put the foundation in place in order to have, your altar. And then it's there, it's not going anywhere. It's solid, right? Like, so I'm a huge advocate of psilocybin and microdosing. And I mean, of course, I'm not scared of the larger doses. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm scared to take too much of it, but you get really smart at and good at knowing the right amount for you. And I've always been experimental and, kind of, I don't know, you could use the word brave, but, there's other words to describe my attitude towards psychedelics in general, but I've always had it. So, it's kind of part of my personality, I guess. But I'm glad that you mentioned them.
Yeah, I'm curious. You are not alone. Oh man. I'm curious, have you had more success with micro or macro?
Well, honestly, micro is kind of part of, like I'll do 3 days on, 3 days off, 3 days on, 3 days off. With a microdose of psilocybin. I'll and I love to time it. Like if I have 3 days where I'm going to be, working out and meditating, then I'll make sure I time those 3 days for the dose, for the microdose. If I'm going to be in nature, and I'm going to have a few hours away from my children and with the right people, then I'll plan to, I have these incredible chocolate bars. I'll send you guys a link of a vlog I did where I went hiking and I ate this amazing blend of chocolate that I get. That it's just so perfect. It's never had a blend that was so smooth. And this guy, he procures these, whatever part of the world that these ingredients are originally from, he finds them, and he's like this intuitive alchemist, and everything he puts into these blends is specifically made for your health and for that, for that vision or that journey that you're going to go on when you eat it. So it's really high end and amazing. This
Awesome.
mix. Yeah, totally. You guys I'll hook you up. We'll talk after the podcast.
Definitely curious about that.
Yeah. And, and I would love to further experiment, but there are some things that are a little harder to get and a little more frowned upon by society. So, there's that hurdle to jump through as well. But
yeah, we're moving in the right direction though.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually starting ketamine therapy tomorrow. So that'll be my newest.
It's tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. The day is finally here.
I keep hearing so much about that. And I would, I've only done ketamine once, and that was in college. And there was something therapeutic about it, but that was not the.
It's a little different. Yeah.
Slightly different setting.
Definitely didn't. It was a long walk home, but a very enjoyable walk home. I remember. It was a good time. It wasn't my idea, I swear.
Ketamine doesn't last very long. We're just like a couple blocks away.
Yeah, well, we were.
I think it can.
We were literally a couple blocks away, but I felt like it took us about an hour and a half to walk those couple of blocks.
Nice.
I've heard it distorts time a little bit.
Yeah, that was probably part of
Yeah,
it.
I mean, people are having amazing success with it. I went to a psychedelic conference about a month ago, and just hearing these stories about, I mean, not just ketamine, but psilocybin and MDMA, all these
MDMA,
things.
yeah.
I mean, people overcoming PTSD, trauma, anxiety, depression, on the verge of a divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. So
Anything that is going to light the mind up, like, you know, the Rockefeller tree during Christmas season here. I mean, like, if
Today's
you think
the
about
tree
it,
lighting. Good timing.
is it today?
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cool synchronicity.
And the tree is from Maryland for the first time in like a long time.
That's crazy. That's
Cool.
funny.
Yeah.
So-
Sorry.
and
to
yeah, no,
interrupt.
that's so an awesome little trifecta of synchronicity. But I tell people all the time, like, you know, if it's going to increase your chances of an experience that's going to heal you, you know, then why wouldn't you want to look into it? Why would you? Just because society has its own agenda for its rules and policies, which have nothing to do with your health. So, you know, why wouldn't you look into it? If it, you know, whether it was MDMA or psilocybin, anything that's going to create that interconnectedness and, you know, put things in communication that were not before, that's a good thing, right? That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my personal life has been helped drastically from it. I mean, just in my own experimentation with macro and
Yeah.
microdoses of psilocybin, but this is a little on a personal note, but my boyfriend and I have done therapy off and on, and we're always trying to go deeper and optimize. And we've had our fair share of challenges. And at times it's like, oh man, therapy is really expensive and the scheduling. And so we've used this is like totally a DIY, but it's like we've used MDMA and sat in the park and like
That's awesome.
did it. And it's powerful. I'm not
It
saying
is.
everyone run out and do it, but
But you should. No, I didn't say that.
like minimum effective
I'm the
dose,
worst.
like let's drop in, because you could spend 5 years in therapy, or you could, you know, cut to the chase.
You could cut to the chase. You could spend a few hours in the park reconnecting in a way, and you know, you could look at your significant other in a way that maybe you haven't in years, and you can speak things. You feel like there's permission to speak and say things that you didn't, you know,
It's
an hour
safe.
before. You know, it's safe, and
Mhm.
and when you look at them, it's a different perspective. You know, you're seeing them through like new eyes almost, and it can be
Yeah,
an
it's
amazing
not just so you can
experience.
speak, it's so that you can hear as well.
Yeah.
Which we all need
Yeah.
to.
Oh
more
yeah.
listening.
Which is so
Very
different
good
than like alcohol.
Yeah,
You
it's
know?
like the opposite of alcohol. On a lot of,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, where
alcohol
love
makes a lot of
cocktails,
fake
but,
listeners,
like,
you know.
yeah, you just say stupid stuff and
Yeah,
like
not
it's
great for communication.
You're like,
Exactly.
I look like I'm listening, but I'm really just watching you, and I can't hear a word you're saying. That's alcohol, you know.
And then I
And
won't
do-
remember it tomorrow.
What did you say your name was? That's
Yeah.
yeah, no, totally. That's awesome though. It's very cool. And I recommend
it's
it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you gonna, I think Renee, you had something else to say about it.
Oh, I don't remember.
Darn, pin that.
Oh, maybe
on.
Saw a light bulb moment.
with I was just going to say with the ketamine, my guide was saying to me, I thought this was a really good analogy about neuroplasticity. She said, when you go into the session, it's like, imagine your brain has this fresh blanket of snow across it, and you're going to be driving and making new tracks
Hmm.
of the way you think of
Love that.
things. Yeah, that like really stuck with me. So
Oh,
I'm gonna be making snow angels.
yeah.
How
So
about
thinking
these?
about an event, yeah, thinking about a certain event in the past and being able to create a new perspective on it.
Oh my God, I didn't even. I'm just realizing now, and I've been trying to like figure out how ketamine therapy can work, and it just dawned on me that, you know, look, if you can put your mind into that suggestive, you know, very much easier reprogrammable state, you know, that comes with theta brainwaves and like some of the slower brainwave function, then you can begin to reprogram. So I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that analogy that you just, or is it a metaphor? The metaphor with the snow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that just totally
Love it.
like made me realize how how that could work. I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love to know your experience about it. I'm gonna like send you an
Can't
email.
wait.
Yeah, I'll follow up with you.
You
Very
should
cool.
journal. You should write about. I just finished this amazing book. I didn't realize I had it right here, but Eilert Waldman. Have you heard of this book?
No, what is it?
Mm-mm.
Eilert Waldman. It's called A Really Good Day.
Oh, cool.
She was an attorney, did like some drug war work, and she experimented with LSD, and she journals every single day.
Oh,
and the book's called
cool.
A Really Good Day. And it's like just this subtle sub-perceptual change where she's like, man, just had a really good day. So you should journal, Renee. You could do like
So I'm doing it with Mind Bloom, and they sent me a journal.
Oh, cool.
So I definitely will journal.
Have you guys ever tried DMT?
yes.
Cool.
I didn't really have much of an experience, to be
Then
honest.
you didn't try it right.
No, I certainly didn't. I need to do it again.
The first time I tried it, oh my God, what a incredible disaster that was.
It's quick, right?
I mean, it was it could have been a lot quicker. We
Like
didn't
it
know
felt like 5 hours.
Let me just say this. I was in a room and we were on an island in a cabin, and I was with my best friend, and I didn't have a scale, and I couldn't measure the dose, and we couldn't figure out how to get it to vape, right? Because you vape it, you don't burn it. If you burned it, it would just poof, it would just, disappear. You have to vape it, right? And we didn't know how to vape it. So my friend had this thing which he smokes like a ton of weed out of, and we ended up putting it in that, and there was already weed there. And then we ended up hitting it. I remember my twin brother, both of us hit it, and we couldn't, like, it burned so bad. It shouldn't, when you do it right and you have the right device, it doesn't burn at all. You can just take it in.
You mean it burns your throat?
Well, because it was on top of all this weed. Right. So
actual.
Yeah. like because
smoke.
there was so much resin. I mean, we didn't even think of that. I just remember my twin brother walked in because he was like, what are you guys doing? We're like, oh, we're going to do this. I don't know if you should do it or not. Like, he was like, oh, I'll see how it works for you guys. So cut to 10 minutes. Me and my best friend, we can't stop coughing. We're like, in pain. And he must have heard us. Like 5 minutes goes by. So he comes in, he's like, you guys all right? How did it go? It's going good. We were like, he's like, wow, it looks like a lot of fun. I'll leave you guys go. We were like,
like instant asthma. It's going great.
Oh my God. We screwed it all up. I figured out how to do it. And I wrote home, I was like, we did it so wrong. I was like, it's nothing like that. He ended up trying it again and doing it the right way. But I was like, don't judge it by that. It's nothing like that. That was a nightmare.
Learning lesson. Yeah. Well, one time with psilocybin, someone was measuring it by eye, not by a scale. That was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Are you referring to this summer?
You were there.
That looks like it's about 2 grams. Looks
don't
like
eyeball it. Not a good idea.
No, it's worth it
Don't
to
eyeball
have a
DMT
test
either.
kit and to have a scale and to like really be a nerdy scientist with this. It can go wrong. Certainly can go wrong. Yeah. And the only time that I tried DMT, I was in a small group of people and I watched it work magically for 2 people. I was like, man, you went somewhere and I wish I had gone there, but I had nothing happen to me or my boyfriend, like just didn't work on us. And the only thing that I can reason from that is that we had taken a ton of antioxidants and supplements that day. Like I'd taken like a ton of glutathione, NAC. I was like, I don't know if I had just, my body was like instant detoxification. I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
No effect.
I use this device. I'll send you a link because I vlogged this as well. Well, I vlogged it. You can only vlog so much of this because you don't want to break the community standards, so you can't show everything. But we use this device called the Volcano, which is this vaporizer. It's like a really fancy giant vaporizer, which I think was tailor-made for DMT. Like people use it to burn weed and everything else, and I just think that's because it filters everything out of it that would hurt like your throat. So you can really, it fills the bag up real big. And then you're just like, so if you had done it that way, it doesn't matter. I mean, you could have had 5 pounds of avocados and every other kind of DMT inhibiting whatever, and you would have definitely felt something regardless, because it's just concentrated, it's all in this bag, and you can just, take as much in as you can. You hold it, you exhale, do it again. And then by the third one, you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this again, because you're just already, off on your, leaving the, this dimension behind. But it's
man.
one of these days
awesome.
when you're back in New York,
yeah,
we'll have to get together. I have a big stash, and it's it doesn't go bad. So
nice.
we'll have to get together. But
you guys will have like a new fit DMT party.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome. Yeah. I'm going to send you, and I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff about some of those other supplements we talked about too. You're gonna go crazy.
Yes. I would love to learn.
Awesome.
I love this conversation. If you had told me 10 years ago, we'd be like sitting on a podcast talking about doing
one year ago, I wouldn't believe you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it, and I keep getting messages, people whose lives have been, really improved by incorporating into their life psilocybin, both micro and the macro doses that they do. I mean, and these people they're not like hippie eating granola, like granola eating hippies. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like,
we eat the hippies.
Did I say hippie eating? They're like normal family people. Hippies are so tasty. Yeah. And they're like, dude, thank you so much. Like, it's like, we go to our house, one of the Great Lakes every weekend, and we have the best time. We've never not had a great time, inviting friends and having these, like journeys with them. And I'm like, that is awesome, man. It's so cool to hear that it's brought that into your life. It's so cool. Yeah. It's quite crazy that it's illegal in 40 states. For now,
it's changing so quickly.
Yeah. Finally. Yeah. Okay. Renee, what if you could recommend a book for everyone on the planet to read, one that I maybe changed your life, what would it be if you had to pick one?
I love this question.
I know. I should have been ready for it. I'm like, let me.
That's why I asked you. I'm like,
one book. Oh man.
You can do it.
I guess it depends if it's more health related or just in general.
Well, what came to mind?
To be honest, the number one book that came to my mind, this is like going to sound like such a biohacker, is Boundless, Ben Greenfield's book, Boundless.
There you go.
I mean, it's obviously more health focused, but I feel like if everyone in America had this book on their coffee table, the pandemic would be a different story right now. I mean, this thing is like a textbook, that's why we call it a coffee book. It's like, okay, this is happening in my body. You go to this chapter, you can figure out how to biohack it. It's like biohacking at home. Mm-hmm. And obviously we're in a huge health crisis right now. And it's because people are not healthy. I mean,
that's right.
80+% of the people that are going to the hospital and that are dying are not healthy. And
just to end up in the ICU. That's 79% of people who end up in the ICU. Yeah.
And I swear, if I hear one more time, but they were healthy and they ended up, do not tell me someone is healthy until I have looked at their lab work. Like, right. I want to know their CRP, their A1C, their fasting glucose. I want to know their numbers. And then I will tell you if they're actually healthy, because they probably not. What's their vitamin D status, right? So all of these things that we can, sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox in a second.
No, it's okay.
All these things that we can be doing to optimize our health, we would be in such a better state during this pandemic. It wouldn't be going on 2 years now. So circling back to your question, the book Boundless, I love it. I mean, I'm a Ben Greenfield coach, so of course I'm, a big supporter of that, but put it on your coffee table. When you have time, just flip through, read a couple pages at a time. Your mind will be blown about what you can be doing to optimize your sleep, your immune function, your brain function, your sex life, nutrition, diet, exercise. all these things that we can be
Very
doing.
cool. No, I'm glad that you shared it. It doesn't matter if it's biohackery. It doesn't need to be.
I didn't want to say like the 4 agreements. I don't know, like something more inspirational. That's probably Lauren's favorite book.
She's like, I can't believe you just said that. I was about to say. No. Okay. Lauren, what do you think? What's your answer?
The 4 agreements.
See, that's a little bit more inspirational and good.
Well, that's okay. They get the best of both worlds.
Wish that was required reading for humans. I think there's so many amazing lessons in there. My favorite one is like, don't take things personally. And that's just like it's such a lesson in compassion. And I think that when we stop taking things personally, we can connect better and we just like get outside of ourselves. And I think that's a biohack in itself. That's that spiritual development that I think informs so many other things. It informs all the choices that we make all day long. So whatever, it's a biohacking book in my mind.
That's probably the number one, I guess you would call it a spiritual hack. I don't know. But honestly, you really learn not to take things personally because they never are. And that's a hard thing to realize, but it's so true, and when you can start to realize that everything is a reflection of whatever's happening inside that other person, you realize it's not personal, that if you're being attacked, not physically, but, verbally, and this is all a reflection of the storm that is within that individual and what they have to work out, because if they were not in that state, they would not feel no need to attack you. Whatever your point of view you're sharing, is valid. If you have a calm, I was going to say pond, but if things are not, if that's not happening, then there's no need to, I always remind myself of that. But that's a great spiritual hack, if there is such a thing.
You think of how much time we waste just idling on that. Oh, that person said this. Oh, like
reading it over and over
and over. I'm like, oh my gosh, so much energy and focus. When if you would not take it personally, and then maybe you would reach out to that person or connect with them or be curious about what's going on with them, or just like do something more productive with your mind.
Yeah.
And then I think what you were going towards is like the ripple effect, right? Like if you take things personally, then that probably gets bottled up in you, and then you affect someone else in that way. And it's like, we can keep the pond calm, or we can, project love and compassion, and that has exponential effects. It comes back to the pandemic. It's like the fear and anxiety and the narrative that we're so stuck on. Oh, I'm healthy, and so I'm not going to make changes, and
right.
Blah blah.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned what you mentioned, Renee, regarding health, and it's a topic that I'm very outspoken about, but I don't get into it that much on my show because of the current state of censorship, and I leave it to orators more gifted than me, like Russell Brand, who can talk around these things without JP. They bring comedy and a certain genius to these things that I can't at this point in my in my life. I'm a little too emotional about what's happening, and people know how I feel in general if they know me. I'm not very quiet about it. I just got off a 30-day stint in meta prison, the meta penitentiary, as I call it.
Oh no!
For Facebook, and so I'm just like, look, it's no long. There's no longer a place for discussion like that. And I don't know how many minds you're changing anyway.
That way, yeah.
So but I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's it's a tragedy what's happening right now with health and people being in denial about a lot of things, and not taking responsibility for their health, and thinking that somehow it's going to come in a shot, in a jab, for this thing. And that's a whole nother conversation about, what's actually happening with that. And the other thing I wanted to say was, Lauren, and I was like, should I ask this? I was like, but we have this in common, and I'm wondering how much of it, how crazy has it been for you looking at, our industry and seeing how affected and politicized everything has been regarding this current health crisis? I mean, it's been incredibly shocking for me to see. And I'm just wondering, you've been in this space even longer than I have and performing at the highest level. How crazy has it been for you?
Wild. It's just so wild. My idea of New York and in New York's minds are not what I thought they were.
Me too.
Yeah. And I've had a huge loss of community. I'm not in New York. I'm in Maryland at my parents' house because I'm not welcome.
Yeah, no, you're not. You can't.
In the city. And so I'm not going back to Broadway. I can't. And that's okay, but it's shocking, devastating in a lot of ways, but also a blessing in many ways. But I'm shell shocked that like all of these intelligent, creative, forward-thinking people are, I don't want to say lost. I don't want to put judgment on it, but just different. Different in the way that like we can't even have conversations. And we all should be welcome, but there's not like so many doors have been shut because people don't want to have. Yeah. So just shocking and devastating in a lot of ways that we can't even have conversations about it. And so I'm not in the city.
I don't blame you.
Which is so crazy, even in my eyes. Like, I mean, I'm 2 years younger than Lauren, but my whole life I've remembered Lauren's dream was to move to New York City. I mean, every time our parents would take us there as kids, Lauren was like, I'm going to live here one day. Mm-hmm. And then you graduated
I was
high
9.
school.
My mom was like, not yet.
Yeah. You were like ready to just go.
Like, I got the subway.
Yeah. I think you were taking us around the subway at like 9. Yeah.
Awesome.
You knew that
I got
city.
lost. And mom was like,
Yeah. But then you turned 17 and you were off to the city and you've been there forever, other than a couple tours you've done. But it's weird in my eyes that you're not in New York. It's just so crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm sorry for all that.
Lauren, I feel you in my bones and in my heart. I feel you. It's it has not been easy, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you've had to experience that, and that you're not here.
Thank you.
God willing, there's a return to sanity. I'm trying not to put judgment on it either, but and I just remind myself that fear is a hell of a drug. It's
powerful.
It's a hard one to kick, and it's we have a lot of survival programs that take that and put it right in front of everything. It's really hard to kind of it takes a long time. It doesn't take long to get put as the filter, and it takes a long time sometimes to get it off so you can see clearly. And I think there's been a lot of traumatization that's happened to New York in general with the way everything was handled, and that's another conversation we can have. But I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that
Thank
sucks,
you.
and I'm sorry.
I appreciate it.
And
how has your time been in New York?
I can't wait to move.
Where do you want to move?
We're looking at in Georgia right now. I mean, we have a son who's he struggles with dyslexia, and so we want to find a school that can help him learn to really be able to just read, and then from there we're more free to pursue anything else we want to. I just don't. If I could teach him how to read, I would do it myself. But at the same time, we just got hit with a 5 to 12-year-old vaccine mandate for his school. So I have no idea what's going to happen now. Even though they haven't even mandated the public schools, the private schools are looking to pass it now. And they're telling people, by New Year's. And I'm like, he goes to a special school for children who have dyslexia. And they're, he did. Either we're going to find a way around this, or he's not going to be going there anymore because,
I'm so sorry.
Not going to take any chances with his health for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry about
crazy.
that.
Thank you.
It's got to be so hard to parent in this world. Right?
It's difficult, and it's difficult in the city in general because, it's not like they can just go out and play in the yard. You know what I mean? It's like when I grew up, as much as we could be out of the house and away from my parents, we were,
Right.
So when you're stuck in a city, it's a challenge because, you can't just kick them out and tell them to go play in the dirt. But But
Georgia sounds like a beautiful choice.
And we would have a house, and there's a school there that could work with him, and so we're going to see what happens. But I'm also looking forward to, and I love this city, and I also have been coming here since I was a kid, and every summer when I was in college, I would move to the city. I got an internship with Showtime Television Network. I was taking acting classes before I ever got my master's. I would come for the day and just go see a play and then take a bus home back to Pennsylvania. I love the city. I've always loved the city, and I don't know it anymore. It's no longer familiar.
Really
to me,
different.
Yeah. And I really thought the people here were, like some of the grittiest, smartest people on the planet. I didn't see any of this coming, with the level of, compliance and like amount of bullshit people just swallow whole without saying, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make much sense. But
it's crazy.
It is. So I know that wait, which one of you has to go?
I do. I have a client.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So before you
I
go,
wish I had 5 more hours to chat with you.
Me too. Me too. So before you go, I'm just gonna ask you my favorite question. If you could whisper into the ears of every person on this planet and make a post hypnotic suggestion, right? That they would seamlessly and like effortlessly incorporate into their life, which would allow for a greater expression of joy and in their existence. What would you whisper in their ear?
Do you want me to go first? Or Lauren go first?
Wait. Lauren, you go first because you have to go.
Okay.
Yeah, you can always answer that question later, Renee.
Oh, you're going to be kept overtime.
That's where the tough questions come out.
I have not been asked this question before, so this is not a refined answer. If I have to just whisper something, I would like to refine the statement, but some version of, and I feel like this is so overused, but like a version of do you, or like be uniquely you. And with that, like listening to your intuition and bringing your own gifts to the world and making life work for you, whether that's like a nutrition and lifestyle, like metabolic, like taking care of your epigenetic body, but also, we're all so different. We all have something to offer to the world, and we're all trying to be the same and good at everything. Like,
yeah, be uniquely you.
Do you.
I love that. Be uniquely you. No, that's 3 profound words. They're perfect. Yeah. Be uniquely
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry that you have to go so early. I'm going to stay and ask all the good questions to your sister. You're just going to have to.
Oh, we will miss you.
We will.
I have like 3 more minutes. I'm going to stick around for her answer.
Oh yeah, you should. Well, you should.
Oh,
I guess you're going to answer now.
Oh,
I was going to save it for later, but go ahead. You're like, I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I was like, I thought I had more time. No.
Your sister put you on the spot. You did have more time, but
sorry. Well, there are many things I wish I could say in 2021 into people's ears. I think just to remind people that the human body has this innate capacity to heal itself. If we just get out of the way, we remove the noise, all the blocks. I think really true health is already within the human body. We just got to remove the blocks.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's always You're absolutely right. I mean, the body only knows how to heal. This whole notion that, whenever there's only one state, right? It's just, and it's a return to a homeostasis. It's a return to health, right? Everything that happens in between, there's like glitches, and there's, sometimes the body gets confused, but there's only one thing it's always trying to do. It doesn't know how to be sick. It just knows how to try to heal. And sometimes the conditions in place aren't conducive to that. But
Totally.
yeah, if more people, I think, realized and were taught that, we would be living in a different world. Absolutely.
Love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think so many therapies, people have to be careful to say, oh, it doesn't heal this condition or that condition. And it's like, well, no, none of those heal the condition. All those therapies are doing, are they're putting the body back into that state, typically more of a parasympathetic state where it can do the healing. It's not the therapy that's healing. It's your body that's doing the healing.
Right. Right. Very important. And you have to be very careful what you say these days, because they will come after you. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Cancel you and put you in meta jail.
Moving to
That's
Mexico.
right. You'll end
no
up
time.
next. You'll end up next to me in the meta penitentiary.
Crazy.
Doing hard time.
Well, thank you. I'm going to jump off.
Hey, thanks, Lauren. I'll be in touch.
The questions, Renee. It was so lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much.
Too. Take care. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. It's just
And
me and you. Then there were two. But that's so, it's so cool that you guys are sisters and you're both doing this.
We're very fortunate. I mean, every day I count my blessings, like to have a family where like mom, dad, and sister all into health and biohacking.
Yeah.
Especially in today's age where I have friends that are battling their parents over bigger issues and what to be doing and not doing. It's like just to have a family.
I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, God, I can't imagine like literally arguing with your parents over that today. Like, I'm just grateful that we're all on the same page.
Be grateful. Be grateful because I think it's a rare thing. I mean, I told my dad, I was like, just stop texting me and telling me to do this. I'm not gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't work out for you. You've had a full body rash you've been dealing with since you got the first jab. I'm like, why do you insist on, like, I know you believe what you're being told and that's cool. But I'm reading the fine print and I don't see it the way you see it. Okay. Like, I don't believe the news and about what it does, because I'm reading the trial data and I see that it does a lot of other things that I don't necessarily think are safe. Yeah. And so, just stop. I know you're worried about me. I know your intention is good, but I'm like, I don't want to get any more text messages that tell me what to do with myself and my family, because I know how to take care of myself and my family. And he's finally got the message. Finally stopped.
Almost 2 years in. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry you're dealing with that.
Yeah. And it's what's crazy is he's still dealing with this full body rash that he got from his first jab.
I know someone, my friend's aunt, same thing. Full body rash. She's had it for like 9 months.
That's same with him. 9 months. Yeah. It flares up. I feel bad for my mother. My dad's, he can be pretty miserable without a rash.
Oh no.
Like, your father's miserable. I'm like, wow, for her to say
a rash
that
on top. Yeah.
You must be in a rough place right now. I don't envy her. He's been to every specialist in the country now. I mean, like, and they're like, well, there's all kinds of things in his blood. And I'm like, Dad, everything that they're finding in your blood, aren't those all the different, jabs that you got between 2019 and 2020? But, he didn't answer my question, but it is. I know it is, because I looked at his records. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
What a link.
Yeah. No correlation.
No, just oddly timing.
Correlation doesn't mean causation, right?
Right.
Except in some things. So I'm going to ask you all the fun questions. It's just going to be like, damn it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you had, let's say you only had 1 hour left on the planet, what would you spend it doing?
Oh, wow. That is a good question. 1 hour. I would
Roughly
definitely
60
be
minutes.
with my husband for sure, spending time with him. And I mean, as many family and friends that I can get together within 1 hour.
Yeah.
My community, my tribe, that is my world. If that's all I had for my final hour, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
And
That's cool.
I think community and tribe is part of biohacking, right? There's so many aspects of it, but I think people overlook how detrimental it can be to be lonely
Oh my
and
God.
just be in your house.
How overlooked has it been in the last 18 months? How
Right.
much have we, I mean,
Yeah, no one's talking about the increase in anxiety, depression, suicide, all of these things. Why? Because people are locked up in their house.
yeah.
I mean, I say other people, I haven't stopped. I think I stayed home for 4 weeks and then I've been out traveling the world. It's been great. So it hasn't impacted me, but I see friends that they're just now going to the grocery store for the first time in a year. And I'm like,
it is
oh
crazy. I know some people who, literally it's been a year since their kids like left the house. And I'm like, listen, that's, I understand why you're doing it, but that is borderline child abuse. That is like, that's insane. That is a recipe for, disaster as far as the development of your child. A full year. I mean, that is like something, being from the theater and in film, you would read a play about fucking crazy parents who did that, to their children,
It's like that
just
movie
fucking
where
lock them in the house.
Yeah. That kid that was locked in that thing for 4 years and how it changed his life. They made a movie.
I mean, literally. And it wouldn't be like, it'd be like a thriller or, on the horror side, it wouldn't be a feel-good movie.
Yeah. And our probably mutual friend, Dr. Scott Schur, you know him from Transcriptions. He was telling me how I think he has 4 or 5 kids. They haven't been sick in a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And like, his kids' friends' parents are saying the same thing. Oh, this is so great. My kids haven't been sick in a year and a half. And he's like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
This is a problem. Our kids have not been exposed to any new microbes in a year and a half. I mean, he's better now because he's getting his kids outside and stuff since they moved out of the city. But I mean, what are we going to see?
It's going to be interesting. I made sure that, even in the midst of it, to try to get my kids, take them outside, make them go outside and
eat some dirt,
roll around in some dirt and play with some monkey bars and, don't be afraid to get some germs on you, because it's, I mean, like literally from the time we're born, from the moment we come out of the womb, that exposure is part of what makes us resilient. And so if you take it away, you're gonna have problems. And so we're isolating people, and don't get me wrong, there are some people who maybe should be people who have, very advanced stages of certain things and who are highly susceptible. That's different. That's who we always should have looked to isolate from this when it was new. But now, and I know people who are, who have autoimmune issues, who have deliberately never put on a mask and never bought into this, because they know that part of their operating system has to be continually being exposed, or they will. And the challenge is what keeps their resilience up, and they know that about themselves. And people are like, you're crazy, you're gonna be like, they're like, no, I know myself, I know what I'm doing. So I'm not gonna put on a mask and risk compromising my immune system in that way, to do so, because it makes no sense. And I'm like, that's more scientific to me than, trying to isolate the population and, that knowing the detriment that comes from that isolation, which is, pretty immeasurable. It's so big.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep circling back to that.
No, I mean, it's like,
it's just like in the forefront at all times. Yeah.
It's the world we're living in. It's inevitable. It's hard to avoid, it's kind of it's everywhere the way it's infiltrated. I'll try to keep you off it
Off
with
my
some,
soapbox.
with some more fun questions.
Okay.
You know, well, I love this question, but have you ever had, like, what was the most, and when I say supernatural, forget about Hollywood, right? Think more, like the way Bruce Lee did things was just, almost supernatural, the way he could punch someone and make them move 25 feet across the room. Like there's so many different levels of supernatural ability, right? Like, so if you ever had a supernatural experience, or like it could be like a close encounter with like a UFO, or what was the craziest experience you ever had, like that you cannot explain?
Oh, I think I have a fun story that would be fitting for this.
Go for it.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing happened. So my husband and I were staying at this very historic hotel in downtown Baltimore years ago. His company had their holiday party there. Everyone got a room at the hotel after. So we stayed the night. We were out pretty late, I think till, I don't know, 2 a.m. probably. We finally get into bed. I'm falling asleep and I hear a knock at the front door on my hotel room. I'm like, wide awake. Probably just a drunk person knocking on the wrong room, right? We've all had that happen in a hotel.
Oh yeah.
Start falling back asleep. Then I hear the floorboards. It was a wood floor. The floorboards next to the bed start creaking. Sounded like someone was standing next to my bed, like just marching. And I wake up, I look, there's no one there. Oh my God. Now my heart's racing. I'm trying to fall back asleep. Knock on the door again. Creaks on the floor again. This went on for 3 hours.
Wow.
And I'm like,
did
okay,
you get up and look to see if anyone was at the door?
No, I was so scared. I just stayed in bed. But I'm thinking, okay, it's probably a drunk person in the hallway, and then the floorboards, it must be from upstairs. I'm just hearing it weird, whatever. Next morning, we're coming down the elevator and we run into the girl that runs the HR department at his company. And she's like, so how'd you guys sleep? I'm like, it was actually a rough night. Why are you asking that?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, did you have any like ghosts or anything? I'm like, maybe.
Now that you mention it.
Yeah. And I'm like, why would you say that? And she says, well, this is one of the most haunted buildings in America,
You're like,
right?
fucking no, I didn't know.
I'm like, do you think I would have slept here last night if I had known that?
Wow.
So then I go home and I look up, the hotel had been on, oh gosh, what's that show where they, the ghost show.
Yeah. I know.
Turns out there was an episode filmed in the room next door to mine where supposedly, so this hotel is so old, back in the 1800s, the sailors would come in, they would stay there, they'd hire prostitutes for the night. I don't know what else went down. Supposedly the room next to mine, a prostitute was murdered in that room. And there have been many people have complained of creaky floorboards and knocks on their door.
Wow.
And they did a full episode in that room where they were trying to talk to her ghost.
Wow.
Oh.
That's crazy. That's crazy that you found out that actually like the floorboard and the knocking is that's.
I mean, you can't make that up.
No,
I heard all that and had no idea the place was haunted. No idea.
You're like, that's why the room was discounted.
Yeah. They paid me to stay there. That's weird.
They should have paid you to stay there. That's fucked up.
Yeah. Never stay there again.
I always wonder like what would happen if like you sent in like the Dalai Lama to sleep there. Like would he pick up on those things? Like, and if he did, would he be like, everyone be cool? Like
yeah.
And like what would happen if you send in like a really
someone that's like really intuitive and
and like high vibrating, like what would happen to those? I bet you there'd just be like a conversation and be like, okay, so let me sleep now. And then you can do this again tomorrow. Someone else is going to check in and you can knock all you want. But for right now, okay. It'd be funny. That'd be like my experiment. That'd be, I don't watch Squid Game, but I know that it involves like a warehouse and a laboratory. If I could set up my own, it'd be something like that. I'd get like a haunted place and put in like the Dalai Lama and everyone would be like, this show's terrible.
Squid Games is a crazy show. Wait, so have you had an encounter like that?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say like that. No, I mean, I'm trying to think like I've had a lot of different kind of inexplicable synchronicities but I've never had like I wouldn't say that I ever was like where I was like, oh, there was definitely a ghost, in the room or anything like that. But I mean, also like I've had some remarkable, but I was also like in plant ceremonies, and like, so there was a lot where people would write it off. But at the same time,
right,
there are people who go to plant ceremonies and literally sit there in the dark and are like, everyone's throwing up. Why the fuck did I come here? This is a colossal mistake. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a different experience. So it's like, I know what's real for me. And I've had some incredible experiences in plant ceremony and other, different ceremonies. And so I don't write it off because I know that I wasn't imagining it.
Yeah.
There are some things you just can't imagine,
Yeah.
That's definitely awesome. That's true. But yeah, no, I mean, I always think about it. I'm like, I hope one day I get to answer cool questions like this. And then when you asked me that, I was like, I don't even have an answer. I never even thought about it.
You just write the questions. Yeah,
that's right. I'm like, I just work here. I'm sorry. But I loved your answer about what would you tell everyone if you could, about the resilience of the human body and our innate capacity to heal, right? It's a big thing for me. And look, it's it's like when you learn that, it's really hard to go back to the way things were when you realize what a powerful, divine, incredible, like human being you are, and this technology that we have, and all it can do. And we're really just scratching the surface of what our bodies are capable of. Our DNA is like in its toddlerhood, I think. Just wait till we get going. I can't wait.
Yeah. I mean, I think of something as simple as a fever. Like, how incredible is that our body can produce a fever to fight an illness? And then what do most people do? They take something to suppress it and totally destroy that,
That's a perfect, metaphor for how backwards our quote healthcare system is.
Yeah. It's just too many Band-Aids. And funny story about fever. I don't know if you ever heard about the doctor that he was trying to cure cancer by using hyperthermia, but he was injecting syphilis into the patients.
No.
So the syphilis would then induce a fever, and he was finding that this hyperthermia was then treating the cancer.
What?
Isn't that crazy? It was like probably early 1900s, I want to say. I can't remember the doctor's name.
Wow. Well, if you remember it, you'll have to get it to me, because I would love to read it.
I don't think that would fly with the FDA nowadays.
My God, he'd be numero uno on the hit list.
Yeah, you'd knock out Dr. Mercola for sure.
Oh my God. Dr. Mercola, he's like enemy number one. That's the insanity of this world. Dr. Mercola is like, he's on the top 10 most wanted list. I tell people, I'm like, let's not forget that the FBI was raiding a clinic in Michigan during the pandemic for administering zinc and vitamin D to people. And that's a true story. I'm sure my lovely editor will put an insert of that article up, and so we can remind people that is the use of our special forces these days, is to make sure that people are not being administered vitamins and minerals during a pandemic. What could be more important? What a good use of manpower.
Yeah. And I mean, we have no research showing vitamin D helps, right?
Or zinc. Yeah, no. Dangerous. Very dangerous this is. Imagine if it worked. Right back here where we start. But imagine if it worked. We'd have a big problem then, wouldn't it? I mean, you can't have that. Send in the feds.
No.
Send in the feds, right?
Yeah. No solutions allowed.
Unbelievable. But this has been an awesome conversation. I really enjoyed you and your sister so much.
You too.
We'll definitely be in touch, and we'll have to do it again one day. And we'll do it again, and we'll try to stick more towards, all the awesome biohacking thing. I just got so excited and carried away.
So much to talk about.
It's so much to talk about. But listen, if for everyone who's still with us, check out the Biohacker Babe podcast library. There's over 120 episodes. Each one is filled with gems and nuggets of information. And, really, regardless of what you're looking for, just take a glance through the library. You're going to find it. I can't recommend it enough. I've listened to about 15, 16 episodes.
Wow.
And it's such great stuff. It's really awesome. And you guys are both very enjoyable to listen to, and you have some great guests on. I'm quietly making a list. I'm going to ask them to come on my show.
I'm happy to connect you with anyone.
Okay, very cool. Thank you.
This biohacking community is rather small. Let's all stay together.
We got to stick together. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, Renee. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do this in person someday soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we'll be in touch. And tell your sister, I'm sure you talked to her before I do,
yes,
that I'll be in touch, and that thank her for me again.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you.
Okay, you take care.
Bye.
Bye.